Hey everyone, welcome to the latest installment of MSP Business School. My name's Brian Doyle, and with me today are both of my co-hosts. It's been a while since the three amigos have graced the screen at the same time. Rob, Tim, how you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
Doing well, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic because I live in a land that power comes on and
wow.
It doesn't snow all
Okay,
the
shots
time,
fired. Got it. Okay.
and all that kind
All right,
of
let's
good
move it
stuff.
on.
Yeah.
But
They do not sell generators in upstate New York, so it's an issue. It's an issue. We're working on it, though. We're trying to get there.
Are you get the penny saver to bring it in?
There's always Generac,
Yeah.
And that voice you just heard, listeners, if you're not watching us up on YouTube, slam that bell. If you're not listening to us up on YouTube, that's our guest today, Tyson Choptain. He is co-founder and EVP of Broadview Networks, and I've gotten to know Tyson over the last couple of years. Truly a consummate professional, and I'm glad that we were finally able to get him to come on board, join us on the show today. And Tyson, welcome.
Thanks very much. Appreciate being here and looking forward to the chat.
Well, we love to kick off these chats first and foremost with learning a little bit more about you. We've come to find out as we've talked to now probably a couple hundred people. People come from different walks of life into this crazy world of MSP, and we'd love to hear a little bit about your backstory and how you arrived where you are today.
Yeah, so I graduated high school, started a computer consulting business with my dad and ran that for 10 years. And then we decided that, family working together only works together for so long. So we decided to stop doing that and got together with my best friend from high school, and we started up Broadview Networks. And really, we started Broadview Networks as a project-based organization. We didn't even know, what managed services was, and it certainly wasn't on our radar. And that's really how we ran Broadview Networks for the first, 10 years of the business. We were project focused. We met with the customer. We did an upgrade of their Exchange server, their server hardware, whatever it might be, and then didn't see or talk to them for another, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 2 months, depending on what was going on in their environment. And then, we did another project for them. And then, we started running into problems with keeping customers' environments properly patched and keeping things running well. And then a couple of customers started to want some better reporting and understanding of how their stuff was running. And we put in some manual process to do that. We used to go do on-site, maintenance visits on a regular basis. I'm sure this is a walk down memory lane for a lot of people.
I'm loving all this right now because I got some comments to make in just a minute.
Yeah, and so it was going okay for that, and business was going really well. Then we actually had a really good meeting with our Microsoft rep at the time, and they started the conversation about transforming your business model, and you can keep doing what you're doing, and you're gonna be fine for another 10 years, but you're not going to be fine for another 20, because that's not where the industry is going. And so we did a business transformation program process with them, and that was really good. It forced us to look at our revenue models and understand where things were coming in and where things were going.
What was
and
the
we started
frame around that.
That was 11 years ago now. So,
okay, so
that's really when we started down the managed services and really the focus on recurring revenue and moving away from feast and famine to moving to recurring revenue and, increasing the value of the business and, increasing just, a nice amount of money coming in every month. That's very good to see. And so we began that process. I'll be honest with you, the first couple of years were rough. We were doing really well in the old model. So that transition period is tough. The first couple of years were rough.
Tyson, what does that mean? What does that really mean for you?
So we went from, making good money to, being revenue neutral or, even a little below some years. There was an investment process there because we had to change a lot of staff. We had to retool all our processes.
Yeah.
We had to invest in a lot of new technologies. We really had to, look at how we were running our business. Plus, some of our project customers just wouldn't go away. So we were still doing that project business, and some of them still haven't gone away. And I'll come back full circle to why that's been very valuable for us in the long run. So yeah, there was some lean years there where we went through that retool process, but then, it got better and better and better. And now things are, back to, some of our top revenue and profit levels we've had, all time. And, but now it's based on recurring revenue. So now we can count on that, next month, next quarter, next year, and years afterwards. So that's
The
a
gift
big
that keeps
change.
giving.
Yeah, it is the gift that keeps giving. We've had a very strong Microsoft relationship all throughout that. So we've actually been able to maintain a very large amount of Microsoft 365 licensing for the size of organization we are. I mean, we're only 35 people in Winnipeg, Manitoba, not a huge market, good market, don't get me wrong, not small, but not massive area. And we're, the largest local Microsoft 365 reseller in the province by far. And that's because of some of those larger enterprise project-based customers. They've stayed on with us for some of that sale of products, and now they're taking advantage of some of our managed services, which we never would have thought they would have been managed services customers. They have IT departments, they have processes in place, they have help desk software. They don't need us for any of that, but they're using us for, optimization coaching of their cloud environment. They're using us now for managed security services because those are the areas they don't have. And it's just so hard to tool up into the security space in a short period of time, whether you're an organization or a provider of security services. So that's been a really good growth area for us for the last couple of years. And we just see more and more growth in the security side of things. We're doing such a significant amount of security work in the last 2 years compared to, all the time before that. And we aren't even doing security for the majority of our managed services customers yet.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's something that we've talked about on here. And it's funny, Rob and I have been in the industry for, 10, 12 years at this point, and we've seen this evolution where it was almost, it was looked at very negatively to work with larger companies in a co-managed situation. And now it's really come full circle, and people, if you're not going after that market, then you're truly missing out.
Your
Just
competitor is.
Especially on the security side. Like, you just can't know it all. It's not possible. So that's where a company like yours is. I mean, it's critical. It just is.
Yeah. Even when we started managed services, we actually started more in managed services than, your traditional fully managed situation. We have that now for customers that don't have an IT department. We're about a 50-50 split of customers that have no IT to customers that have,
good for you.
multiple people in their IT department. And so, Tim, perfect point. When we started looking at security services, that was the market that was more ready for it right off the bat. So that's the customer base that has really, swallowed up our security services as quickly as possible. We've gone down the Center for Internet Security side and road of things. We hired a security professional who I've known for a long, long time, who's CIS certified, and he's leading our security team. We start with assessments. So we do a CIS assessment. We develop a roadmap for a customer. Then we put in the appropriate one-time or recurring services and help them with the policy development all the way along the full security spectrum. So SIM, managed security services, add-ons to their Microsoft 365 or their on-premise infrastructure requirements, but then the policy and process part behind it as well.
Beautiful.
So it's been a lot in the last 2 years, but it's been a very good experience.
And the reality is security never goes out of style. You know what I mean? So when you start looking at things that an MSP can do in a world that's always adapting and always changing over time, I was enjoying what the beginning of your conversation, Tyson, because it brought me back to, the early days of, hey man, we made almost all our money between 2000 and 2010 on Exchange servers, right? In upgrading Exchange servers. It was a good time for that.
Exchange and SQL. Yeah.
Yep. And, then, it moves into we went cloud desktops a little bit early, and that took us a little time to get traction. And now you're coming here, but there's always an ebb and tide of this thing. But security has always been a mainstay since day one. It's just becoming more critical as we find more ways to exploit, and the digital natives are in
and complicated. No.
Yep. Yep. So.
Yeah, and we see it really pushing down. We saw it, enter the enterprise space via regulatory requirements, or their customers are putting more stringent security requirements on them. And now, the cyber insurance came in, and now we're just seeing all of those things come down in levels where now it's coming into the SMB that they can't get cybersecurity insurance unless they have the right, policies and security posture in place. So all those items are critical for anyone to be able to get the insurance coverage they need or meet the requirements they need either of regulatory bodies or their customers. So it's really going to eventually hit everybody.
Yeah, I think the insurance conversation is really driving a lot of the awareness in the marketplace because it's hitting, the SMB in the wallet now,
Yeah.
or leaving them exposed. And as a result, there's a different conversation happening than it was 5 years ago when we were trying to talk security as well.
We do 3 to 5 webinars a quarter just to introduce people to the company, to our services and everything else. And I'd say over the last year, more than 50% of those, 70% of those is security focused. We do one a quarter now just on cybersecurity insurance readiness. What do you have to get in order to even have a chance of getting approved for cybersecurity insurance? And now it becomes almost more daunting for people to get ready so that they can actually apply and get approved for cybersecurity insurance.
Yeah.
And Tyson, I know you're north of the border. I know there's been a lot of activity in new regulations rolled out in Canada that some of those companies have to adhere to as well. I know, CAN CIOSC 104 is one that's recently been brought to our attention on our side. And, there was another one, what's called, I think, the level 25 out in Montreal. So you're seeing that these different areas are starting to put jurisdiction in, but it's also going to help the cause. It really helps with putting a fence around what the exposure is. It's really making these companies start to look at making investments and maintaining better cybersecurity, which is quite frankly good business, and really giving us an opportunity to, hopefully profit a little on the other side.
And it comes full circle because a critical part of meeting your cybersecurity goals, you have to have patch management in place. You have to be managing your infrastructure. So now it feeds back into the managed services original starting point. It goes right back 360 because you have to have all those things in place to have a proper cybersecurity posture. So it really is just an extension of what a lot of the managed service providers are doing for their customers to begin with. It just takes it to another level for them. And whether you've got the ability in-house, we chose to go the route of increasing our in-house ability, but we've chosen not to put a SOC in place. I'm not going to try and hire the professionals and onboard a SOC. So we go outsource for the security operations center and SIM services because you got to be experts at that. Right. And that's not what we're going to be the experts at. So we've gone out to the market for that and found some really good solutions out there that fit right for our customers and fit into integrating with our business model and our support model very well.
And I think that's a really important point that you just made. We started this when COVID hit, mainly because we got bored, didn't really have anything else to do. So we were like, what the hell? We've talked to a lot of security people over the years, and it's just become, and especially going to conferences, you see it everywhere, right? Like it's just more and more important to outsource that portion of it. Because to your point, the amount of education and the amount of salary and time, like not everybody can, one has the patience for that, but also, they want to be able to service their clients. So there's a really effective and efficient ways to be able to outsource that part, but still bring that value that you need to your clients. So that's great.
Tim, to your point there, we've had a lot of people come on the show talking security, but if you listen back to those episodes, it's been amazing to hear how quickly that conversation has accelerated, gotten more intense, and gotten more depth. So one of the big concerns a couple of years ago was that these MSPs were going out and really holding themselves as MSSPs just because they put a second S on their website. But you're really seeing that the investments are being made by, especially the good ones, into that. And kudos to you, Tyson, for having the foresight. And I think that co-managed conversation is another one we should touch on a moment too, because that drives security. They're looking to outsource. They need third parties to be involved in that because they can't be their own watchdog. And, the MSP community at large still seems to shy away a little bit from the co-managed environment because they like the full control, but there's a lot of dollars on the table there.
Yeah, and Rob and Tim can probably speak to this better than I can. It's a different sales model when you're selling to the co-managed customer than you are to the fully managed customer. So not necessarily every MSP has the experience in their sales team and even how they position their services and even how they deliver their services potentially to hit both those markets. So when you want to deal with both of those customer segments, there's some differences you have to put in place all the way through the organization, both on the sales and account management side, all the way through to the, managed services delivery and support side. Because, obviously our fully managed customers, it's the end users that are contacting us with, the basic end user issues most of the time. And then our co-managed IT customers, they're only coming to us when servers are down and it's something really bad that they don't know how to fix. They understand how to do all the easy stuff. They can get it 50% of the way, 80% of the way. They're looking for that 20% of expertise that we really only have because of that project focus that we had from years ago. So if we didn't have that enterprise project business behind us from the past, we wouldn't have that ability now.
No. Well, and that's right there is why a lot of people shy away from co-manage, because they don't have that experience, and they very specifically, they just don't know how to sell into it. They don't know how to provide that value other than we can take over your full support, but that's obviously not what co-managed is all about, right? It's being able to play in the same sandbox and, have everybody get along, and you're there to be an asset, not the enemy. And when you find the companies that understand that, that's where it really starts to work.
And one of the nice parts about the mid-market too, and I'm sure you felt it, Tyson, is the scraps, meaning if you can get in and take some, a single managed service, right? Just managing routers or just managing, a certain component. Those contracts, which are considered the scraps to the core business, that you're co-managing or that's co-managing you, right? Those scraps can be millions sometimes. It's amazing, the volume in there.
And security is a perfect door opener. We're getting into customers that closed the door to us for traditional managed services for years. We're getting into those customers with security services, then managed security services, and now they're coming to us for their managed services. So it changes the narrative with the customer, the conversation for sure.
And certainly in a down economy, that opens up doors too, because everybody's looking how to do more with less, and managed services has always tended to do well when the market's at its worst.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
So
I'm
Tyson,
still trying to figure out where the down economy is, because all the customers I talk to, and that's my job primarily, I'm our VCIO. I meet with all our customers on a regular basis, and everyone's saying the same thing. We don't know where this recession is. I'm sure it's coming, but no one seems to see or know where it is yet.
Well, it's funny. I think we've seen it probably play out a little bit more regional here stateside, because I don't think we've really felt it heavily up here in the Northeast. We tend not to feel the recessions heavily in the Northeast, but we're definitely seeing some of the areas in the South having challenges. We probably had our worst, most of the manufacturing and all those companies had left the Northeast long enough that we don't quite feel it anymore.
Yeah.
But, you look at some of these southern cities where they have one main, they have a Walmart, manufacturing plant. And if they close up that plant, it shuts down the town. And we're hearing a lot of that kind of story down here.
Yeah, we're lucky in Winnipeg. We have a very, very diverse market. So we don't do a whole lot of any one thing. Obviously, there's the, agricultural support side of the business, because we do have a lot of farmland around us. But even that's not, by itself, any one company or even one group of companies spread out throughout a lot. So we're very diversified. We tend to ride through, those economic upturns and downtime. Then we don't have the highs, so we don't have the great upswings when, oil goes really high, like, our neighbors to the west do out in Alberta, but we don't have the lows either. So it's nice that way.
Yeah, it's not a bad situation though.
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's just cold.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, fellas, we're coming about to the end of our time here today. I want to welcome or thank you for joining us here today, Tyson. Tyson, before we kind of close out here, do you have any closing comments that you would like to, reach out with?
Yeah, I'd say, kind of echoing what we talked about earlier, don't be afraid to look at those areas you're not doing today, whether it be, security, the co-managed IT. If you're not sure how, talk to colleagues. There's lots of people out there in the industry that are doing it. And, but, we talked earlier before we got on the recording part about Team's voice, don't stay away from the new areas, because you're going to want to get into some of the new stuff to be able to continue to support your existing stuff.
Well said. Well said. Well, thank you for joining us here today. For anybody that's looking to get a hold of Tyson, we will be including his LinkedIn profile with the podcast. Also, this episode will be up on msbbusinessschool.com and anywhere that you get your podcast, to include YouTube. So please head over there, like, subscribe, hit the bell. We'd really appreciate it. Fellas, Tyson, I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Thank you so much, Tyson.
All right,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for coming on, Tyson.